my friends, I hope you are having a wonderful day. I know I am because Tears of the Kingdom is finally here. I've spent a few hours playing and wanted to talk about my first impressions of the game and reflect on some of my hopes I had in my last video. I have only just made it off the Great Sky Island and only spent a few minutes on Hyrule Surface, so if you're looking for a spoiler-free discussion of the game so far, you've come to the right place. The game takes a little bit longer to get started than Breath of the Wild did. We start the game with Link and Zelda exploring the tunnels below Hyrule Castle. We come across the same murals we saw in the September 22 Direct and eventually come to the remains of Ganondorf, who springs to life as we get close. Zelda falls and Link is unable to save her and she vanishes into a glowing yellow light. Now as Link falls, the strange arm that was holding Ganondorf in place grabs him and brings him to safety. And now we find ourselves on the Great Sky Island and we truly get started on our adventure. The Great Sky Island is obviously a direct parallel to the Great Plateau. We even have a ghostly figure in the form of Rauru, an actual Zonai who guides us along similar to the Old Man or King Rome. Ganondorf actually name drops Rauru when you find his remains under Hyrule Castle, and it's unclear to me at this point if the name is just a reference to the Sage of Light from Ocarina or if this Zonai Rauru is the Sage of Light. The Great Sky Island is as free to explore as the Great Plateau, yet it does feel streamlined a bit. There are lots of branching paths you can take as you wish, but being a floating island with multiple levels that you need to traverse carefully, you can't just take off in any direction. You kind of have to follow the path to the objectives, but it doesn't feel hand-holdy or anything. It feels very natural and organic. We quickly learn about the return of shrines, and this was a big surprise to me. Like I said in my Hopes and Dreams video, I didn't know how they could do shrines again narratively, and at this moment we still don't know why these new Zonai shrines were built, but I hope that at some point we get some kind of lore explanation. The interior of these new shrines are a bit more basic than the ones in Breath of the Wild, but I think I enjoy their aesthetic a little bit more, and I think the simple designs will take a while longer to become stale. In my Hopes video, I may have falsely assumed that we would either get shrines in some kind of more parallel to the Divine Beasts, or return to form dungeons. I had not really considered that we could have our cake and eat it too with shrines and classic style dungeons. So far, the game has not really hinted at what I should expect in the dungeons department, but I'm pretty optimistic still. Unfortunately, my predictions for the new abilities acting as the dungeon items was incorrect. Just like Breath of the Wild, we are given 4 abilities in the shrines on the Great Sky Island. Fortunately though, it doesn't matter at all because these new abilities are so much fun to play around with. Using Ultra Hand to craft things to solve puzzles has a lot of open-ended possibilities that are a lot of fun to come up with. Fusing items and weapons together is undeniably cool and allows for even more self-expression to the combat than before. Ascend is just a convenient concept, although I still need to get used to pressing A to exit the ground and I end up accidentally pressing B and it sends me back down to where I was. Recall is the last ability you acquire, and we haven't really seen many real puzzle-solving aspects to the ability besides some obvious ones like reversing a cog so you can ride it up to a higher place, but the overall concept is really interesting and definitely has a lot of potential. I have not once wished that I could have the runes from Breath of the Wild back. This feels to me like just a straight improvement. Speaking of those old runes, we got the return of bomb flowers that you can pick up and store with the rest of your items. Obviously, this means that you won't have an unlimited supply of bombs anymore, but this feels so much better and more like Zelda, you know? Hopefully this will also make bombs more impactful than they were. Bombs in Breath of the Wild were flashy and could really disrupt an area, but were almost unusable in battles besides a few key examples like the Molduga. We still have 2 more abilities to discover, and I'm very much looking forward to what they are. I assume that one of them will be some kind of controller for the Zonai tech, but I have no idea what the other one could be. I specifically wanted the new fuse system to flow nicely, and although as of right now you cannot fuse arrows ahead of time like I wanted, it does seem to work. It feels a little clunky right now, but I think it'll just take some time getting used to it on my part. Once I spend more time with it, I'm sure it'll flow a lot better. Some straight improvements over Breath of the Wild are that when you open a chest and your inventory is full, it allows you to cycle through and drop something to make room. Unfortunately, this system does not apply to items and weapons you just find on the ground, and I really wish that they could have used the same system, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. We have the return of Koroks and also Hestu, which I don't think is a shock to anyone, but I just want to know how they got up here anyways. And they're still giving me crap as a reward for finding them or getting them where they need to be. Thanks, I guess. The narrative that Tears of the Kingdom is building definitely has a lot of potential. A lot of what's going on is still shrouded in mystery, which I love. It encourages me to push forward and learn more about what is happening and why. The story already feels more impactful because we are directly progressing everything. If Rauru is actually the Sage of Light and we are going to be on a quest to awaken the sages throughout the kingdom, we are definitely in for a treat, especially if the sages are these characters we've already built relationships with in Breath of the Wild. It'll be interesting to see some characters grow and develop through this new adventure. Right now, I need to find Zelda, and I am just so excited to see more. Like many reviews have said about Tears of the Kingdom, if you didn't like Breath of the Wild, I can't imagine that this game will change your mind. There have been some obvious changes and improvements to the Breath of the Wild formula, but the game is a sequel in every sense. That being said, if you loved Breath of the Wild as I did, you're going to have a wonderful time here. I'm having a great time, and there are already so many reviews out there on the entire game. I wanted to just make this video for anyone who, like me, doesn't want to know much of anything going in, but just wants to talk about their experience so far and how much fun they're having. So I want to hear from you. What are you enjoying about the new game? Are there any other quality of life improvements that I missed here that have you excited? Or are there any disappointing changes or lack of changes you wanted to see? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.